Oh, sorry guys, I accidentally pulled out my mic cord there. Got caught on my hand. Anyway, let me get this set back up. Let's give her. Now, when you switch her down to the low range sub-tranny on the CT, it is slow, but it's a little friggin' goat, because I'm actually in 3rd gear right now and doing 20k. But it will climb any of these hills around here, no joke, especially in 1st. It won't bother it at all. It's absolutely perfectly set up. And here we're entering the grasslands again. The signs reminding you not to be an idiot and jump stuff. Alright, so we're in 4th. 4th gear is semi-useless. It's a little bit better for kind of cruising on the flats in between hills. It's pretty gutless just because it's the end of the gearing spectrum. Although it's a lot more useful than the 3rd gear or 4th gear in main. And like I said, these hills are quite steep. They probably don't look like they are on the camera, but even in a full-on vehicle, it can be hard to get up these, especially in the wintertime. The grade is a lot steeper than it looks. We're just gonna kind of zigzag our way up here. I'm gonna stop at the pullout just up ahead here and turn around. Hopefully we'll get a nice shot of the city of Tranquille there. And there's the jets again. Except they're absolutely butt quiet this time. That was kind of odd. Just going over the hillside. Those things are bloody cool. I guess if they're subsonic, they can do their thing without actually making a lot of noise. And of course, this pullout's always full of junk from people pulling up here. It's a pretty common party spot for teens at night. Just come and do your thing. Now you can smoke cannabis legally here. Alright, so you can see down the hill there is the train that's going to go through the tunnel system just over yonder there. This is the start of Kamloops Lake, and this area here is called Cooney Bay, named after the Cooney family that originally ran the homestead here before this became Tranquille. But you can see down there the whole city. A lot of buildings have been taken down and demolished or semi-demolished or boarded up, but it is huge. You can see the farm on the left. Moving over is the main farmhouse from the silo, slightly white building that you see there, and then the doctor's house is where's the doctor's house? The green building kind of smack in the middle. It's kind of this weird teal green color. Those were actually the school buildings. So there's a number of them, and they're connected to a few other buildings like the laundry and the cantina and such like that. The fire hall is almost smack in the middle. It's a pink tower. You can almost see it. At least it looks pink in the sunset here. It's not quite as pink as that in reality, although it is kind of a funny faded color now. The building on the far right, closest to the water, is the Greaves building, and that is the main hospital, one of the main hospital buildings. All these buildings are connected with tunnels underground, or the majority of the major buildings anyway, that they'd use in the winter to transport laundry and food and everything like that. and unfortunately bodies for the people that passed away. If we look over, you can see from where the train is, there is a road that cuts through the field over there, through the grass field in kind of an S pattern. About halfway, if you look over, you'll see there's a tree. That's actually the Cooney cemetery there. So the Cooney family and the major homesteaders, the Fortunes, are buried in that area there. There are large grave plots in the middle that are unmarked, and no one's really quite sure where they are. It's estimated to be up between 10 and 20,000 souls are rested there. So of course this place is no shortage of ghost stories and what have you. Like I said though, I have the utmost respect for it, and I won't enter it without permission, just because of my family's history there. And there goes the Jets again. I think they're just having fun burning off taxpayers' gas money there. Either way, it's kind of cool to see them. Those are 2 fighter jets. Those are the trainers. I can't remember the fighter jet number off the top of my head, but I really should know that. Anyway, Tranquille Sanitarium. Really cool place. They do tours there. Won't probably get into that until the spring, however. But if I do get a chance, I will totally do that. I'm not sure if they'll let me film it, though. It's a very cool place, though. Lots of history. Well, okay, let's get up the road a bit here before it gets dark. And it's getting even chillier as the sun's starting to set here. Makes a huge difference on the amount of power you have going up hills here with the lower gearing. Absolute night and day difference. It's very hard to get up here with the standard gearing, even if you're in first with it just wound out. You don't go too fast. If you get into second or third, it really loses a lot of power. So this area here, we're heading into the Tranquille River Valley, and this area in front of us that we're going to be going into is, to my left will be Battle Bluff, and that's kind of the area that the train tunnel was situated below. And the area in between Battle Bluff and the cliffside is this guy pass here. The area in between Battle Bluff and the cliffside is called the Dewdrop. I'm not really sure where that name came from. It is quite old though. It definitely goes back until the 20s and 30s. There are quite a few people that live a ways up this road in the Red Lake area. It's possibly where these guys that passed me are heading to. And there's spotted homesteads and farms along the way. But other than that, it's mainly just this rangeland just for kilometers and kilometers. So this area was heavily mined for gold and opal and a lot of other items. Copper was fairly common out here, though they didn't do a lot of copper mining in this area because it was just more prolific with gold. But even the mainstay copper mines that they have here today are actually pay for their whole operating cost and budget with just the gold and silver that they pull out, let alone the copper that they're actually legitimately mining for. Not sure how muddy I want to get in this temperature. An hour or two this will be nice to drive on because it'll be all frozen, but it's kind of funny how the puddles down there, well, actually there's ice here, were a lot more frozen than this guy. Maybe he was in the sun for a little while earlier. Not sure. This is a rangeland now for the most part. If you ever watched, there's a number of documentaries on Yellowstone National Park and how they They do have cameras around here for this. It's such a prolific dump site, unfortunately, being semi-close to the city. But if you've watched online, there's some really good documentaries. I'm pretty sure National Geographic did one, if not BBC, on the rejuvenation, if that is an actual English word, of Yellowstone National Park. And they reintroduced a number of animals in there, one of them being wolves. And the wolves that they introduced all grew in this valley right here. There's currently 6 wolf packs that are collared here. It is not uncommon to run across them. I've seen them numerous times. So right around dusk like this, I am a little bit skittish of this area. There isn't really any, there really isn't any reason to be as far as the statistics. Wow, man, this is muddy and just rutted up. I wanted to go up there, but I think I'm going to skip that. Statistically, there isn't anyone that's been attacked by the wolves, or they haven't caused any problems with livestock, other than what wolves normally do, like regular quotas. However, they are quite large packs, and they do get quite a bit of human contact, so that can be rather dangerous. So I do just keep my eyes open and make sure I don't leave my bike unattended, so I can get back to it if I need to. They are very large beasts and can be quite intimidating and scary. I've run into them at night out here. So normally when I went hunting, I'd come out here at 2 or 3 in the morning, get up to my hunting location, and then hunt down. And you can see their eyes in the fields at night, reflecting off your headlights when you turn. And it's creepy. Their eyes look different than like cattle and coyotes and the other animals that we have around here. And there's something ingrained in you from millennia of trying to not be eaten by these things that just makes the hair on the back of your neck stand up, especially when you hear them calling at night. But anyway, my illegitimate fears aside, because all canines are cool creatures and should be left to do what canines do. They came from here, mostly from these cliff rock formations to my right, is where most of them call home, this area up here. Very hard, inaccessible area. There's some downhill mountain biking trails that kind of snake their way through there. Some of the best in the world, actually. Downhill mountain biking in this area, where you can go up that ridge and then back down. But it is protected, so the trails that are there are pretty much what you're going to get. You can't really build new trails around here. It's against the law. But this is where they got those wolves from. Those wolves that repopulated Yellowstone National Park came from here. Multiple packs, different. They did that to get a diverse gene mixing. They tranquilized them with the helicopters and load them up and bring them to Yellowstone. And around the same time that they were doing that, they basically grow them here and then ship them off to other places. Because even though they are native here, the ones that they were growing here aren't necessarily native variety. They are quite larger than our normal native wolves that we have in the area, so they pushed out a lot of the native packs. And they did do some decimation to the mule deer populations when they first came in, but those have all stabilized out. Just gonna check my time here. Oop, yeah, gotta head back. Alright. So, in their infinite wisdom, besides wolves, they also introduced, tranquilized, and shipped Bighorn sheep. Beauty animals, those guys. They're quite common to see along the hillsides here. Even though they were kind of technically the California Bighorns, the ones that everyone sees on postcards. Even though they were kind of technically would range to this area historically, they definitely weren't a common sight like they are now. We have huge herds of them here, which you can hunt from lot draws, but not, you know, just anyone go out and shoot a goat or sheep. They brought all those to Yellowstone to repopulate the populations there also. But those guys are really cool, and that kind of, I don't know if that's actually impacted. That'd be interesting to see how much that introducing those animals has impacted our ecosystem here. Because if you watch the documentaries on Yellowstone there, it has completely changed the way the creeks run, the way the trees grow, the type of foliage, the way the deer movements happened, and everything, just by reintroducing these top-level predators and the herbivores back in. I'm not sure if there's such a thing as a top-level herbivore. If you're really good at eating grass, then you're probably a top-level herbivore. Yeah, I need to sort out my winter riding gear a little bit better. I got my like end of fall riding stuff on right now, and I'm comfortable, but I can feel it. I can feel it kind of bleeding through the cracks and spots, and I need to tighten up a few things, because a couple hours of this and I'd be looking at possible frostbite in some places. Overall, I'm comfortable. This is actually rather enjoyable. Just something to think about for my next ride. Hey, Fluffbutt's doing well, eh? Good girl. I'm gonna have to switch her gearing back. Switching it back to regular gearing is can be a bit of a pain, so I'm hoping it'll go smooth for me here. I'm not sure why, but it's not just Fluffbutt here. It's a pretty common CT thing. You're gonna have to rock her back and forth to get the dogs and everything to line up, because they're not splined together. They're kind of freewheeling separate, so you do have to get everything back to its happy place manually. So this is kind of your top speed, 40k. This is kind of maxed out right here on low gearing, and because everything is so low geared and everything's spinning around so fast in there, you really don't want to push it any more than 40k. I think it even tells you right on the speed whether or not to exceed X amount, which is probably 45k, I think, off the top of my head. I don't know, something like that. And of course, being 35 something years old, you probably want to take that with a grain of salt and keep it a hair bit lower than what they say, because she ain't new. Let's change the gearing. Okay, so you got a couple options. You can keep her in first. You can put her into neutral. Manual says neutral. Now she's back. We'll roll her backwards. You want to get about half a chain length of your chain seems to work. Then it'll just click in like it did. But you can't just push it over. A lot of people have a lot of trouble with that, trying to figure out how to work it. You can use the low gear on your downhill like this to help you with the whole engine braking. But I mean, CT is so low geared anyway, you really don't need to do that. And the brakes work well enough that you shouldn't really be overdoing your speed on the downhills anyway. But if you have some really, really steep stuff and you want to just crawl down them, that is an excellent option. Just pop it into the low gear. Keep her in probably second, I'd say, because first is just so low. Yeah, you're probably going to end up skidding the back tire if you end up going any sort of fast. Another car coming behind me here. That's the only downside with these roads here is the left side of them is seriously steep, like you can see down there. Now, it just shows you how much of an altitude we actually did climb in that little short distance. Look at another beautiful view of Tranquille in the sunset. This whole area really is just a magical place to explore. There's just so many cool rock formations and trails and hikes and history. There's tons of homesteading history in this area. Oh, now I'm really glad I got all my face gear and neck gear on, because once that sun went down, it definitely dropped. It's for sure well below freezing right now. Once you lose that sunshine, it gets mighty nippy. It's good to take her out on little runs like this, especially in the winter, because the whole combustion cycle isn't as robust as I'd like it to be when it's cold and we're doing short runs to and from work this time of year. So it's good to take her on longer runs like this, where I can heat her right up and burn out some of that carbon. And it's just bloody fun. I mean, who doesn't like to go out on their bike? Maybe it's just a Canadian thing, but I don't mind the cold at all. You know, once you have gear for it and you're dressed for it and you've done it a couple hundred times, you really do get used to it, and there's no real difference being out in the summer than there is being out even at minus 20 or minus 30, once you know how to deal with the problems that arise from the cold. It's really not much different. The biggest thing really is just having the gear to keep your body temp up to a regular temperature. Then everything's fine. It's not much different than sitting on your couch. And you don't need expensive gear either. I mean, nothing I have is expensive gear. A lot of it's just hand-me-downs and stuff I found in thrift stores. The jacket I'm wearing right now is Gore-Tex, but it's Gore-Tex from the early 2000s, but it's still Gore-Tex and it works just as well. Just an old North Face jacket shell, and then I'll layer up underneath that. And the one I use in the warmer weather, my leathers, is an old leather jacket from the 70s that I've used ever since I was a kid. The thing's been hundreds or thousands of kilometers with me. It hasn't failed me, so no sense in changing it out to something fancy and new. The pants I'm wearing are also Gore-Tex. They keep the wind off, and that's mighty important when you're dealing with temps like this. The wind is really what kills you. So anything that'll create a bubble of protection around you is really what you need. Not so much poofy layers like you would worry about with skiing or other outdoor sports. It's really important to cut the actual wind from contacting your body in any location. Don't get me wrong, the layering is important, and like having a nice down vest underneath is probably more useful than a battery operated heated vest, because the heated vest will eventually run out of juice, especially if your bike breaks down, whereas the down filled one is powered by your inner core and it will keep you warm much longer. And in my opinion, you should be relying on your gear and your body to keep you warm more than a set of batteries. Well, I have used them and they are wonderful. So if you're just commuting, or you know, making short trips and you want extra comfort, yeah, go for it. They're not hard to make yourself though. I mean, you can easily, especially if you got a 12 volt bike, not a 6 volt like 90 here, you can go to the store and just get a heated seat pad from like Canadian Tire or Walmart or wherever. And there's normally two separate sections of heat pads. One for your backrest and one for your butt. And you cut that apart and sew it inside your jacket, one in the front, one in the back, or left and right, however you want to do her. And that will then plug into your 12 volt outlet on your bike. And Bob's your uncle. You got yourself a heated jacket for probably less than 20 bucks. And they normally come with heat settings, so you normally have a little digital dial or push buttons or whatever for high, low, medium. And it's designed to run on 12 volt, and it's designed to be sat on and somewhat abused without burning setting you on fire like it would in your vehicle. And that way you can just sew a lining in your jacket, and if you want to, you can take that all out in the springtime and just use the same jacket for all year. Although again, those things kind of fail, and I don't really like relying on them. Same with heated grips and whatnot. What I would like to do, I do have a set. They don't fit as well as I'd like, but they are called, I don't want to say elephant. Elephant paws? No, they're muffs, basically, handlebar muffs. What's the brand name that I can't remember? Something, I want to say elephant something, but that's not right. It'll come to me. But yes, they're basically just large poofy hand covers that fit over all your controls, and they're more common to see on things like snowmobiles and ATVs, but man, they're beauty on street bikes too, and trail bikes in this case. And they don't provide any extra heat, but they keep the heat that you're providing yourself from your core that gets pumped out to your extremities in, so your hands don't get cold. And they also mildly heat up everything, like your controls and everything around you, from your own body heat, because that gets trapped in there. So if you got a long time sitting there with your hand on your brake grip or your throttle grip, and that's metal, it'll suck the heat right through your gloves. But if you have the hippo hands, that's what they're called, not elephant. What am I thinking? Hippo hands. Yes, the brand is Hippo hands. They are amazing. Pick some up. There's lots of knockoffs, and then, I don't know if the knockoffs are much different really than the name brand stuff. Look them up though. If you live in a northern climate, even for rain, actually, I found they were actually really good just keeping water off your hands, keeping you dry. Nice ride though, man. I'm gonna miss this, because once we get snow and the temperatures stay around this freezing mark, the snow normally stays, and it definitely doesn't stop me from riding. But yeah, you know, bare pavement is nicer. There's no way about it. The bare pavement is just nicer to ride on than snowy yuck. Slush and slime is a lot worse than frozen ice, actually. Or not ice, but snow. Ice just sucks no matter what vehicle you're on. Ice is horrible. I have studded my tires before. That does help. There's only so much you can really do though. I mean, if you hit a patch of black ice, doesn't matter what vehicle you're running, if you hit it wrong at the wrong speed, you no longer have traction, and that may be a bad day for you. The cool thing about C90s is they're air-cooled. So any of these older air-cooled bikes, once they get warmed up, like the whole carburetor problem with cold weather, there's that, but once they get warmed up and the carb starts working the way it should, reliably, they run beauty in this cold weather. Being air-cooled, it keeps them at a real nice temperature. They don't overheat, and they really just seem to love it. They go so well in this cold weather. Whereas if you have a liquid-cooled bike, they get the same benefits, but they don't seem to be as happy. You gotta worry, like a liquid, the opposite happens. The liquid gets more thick and sluggish and almost mucusy.